Hello, everyone. This is Phil Golfi with Remax the Golfi Team. Welcome to the Golfi Real Estate Show, Niagara edition with host Tim Dennis.
And, of course, Phil is in this week for Rob, but it's still the Golfi Real Estate Team. And actually, you've got a special guest with you. So right off the bat, I'm going to get you to introduce your guests who we're going to talk to through the course of the show, Phil.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this one today. We got special guest Spencer from Travel Lux Property Management. It's a luxury short-term rental company. They do a ton of stuff in Niagara, and I'm excited for us to, hear from them and hear all about it, and happy to have them on the show.
Oh, that's great, because it's such a big story these days, not just in the real estate business, but with all business. So we'll get to that in a sec. But before we get to your guest and all of those kinds of things this morning, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with you. I've talked to Rob in the past few weeks, but I want to talk about somebody on the front lines, absolutely, because you're down in the trenches, Phil. What's happening in your life in real estate?
Yeah, it's getting busy. It's our spring market is starting to pick up, and it's in full effect right now, Tim. More so than ever. This has been the busiest I've seen it in probably the past 16 months. It comes from the low inventory right now. Listing inventory is still down, and the buyers are out in waiting. We're seeing the appointments up, and the buyers that were considering buying last year, sitting on their hands are out right now and shopping again. So there's a lot more buying confidence in the market. As we see it right now, appointments are up across the board. And I think when when the weather starts to become a little nicer here, we're gonna start to see more and more sales and more people come to the table and putting their houses up for sale. So there's a lot of confidence in the market. There's a lot of positivity in the market. Interest rates are holding. And from my own experience, there's a lot of good conversations going on right now. A lot of people who I was working with last year that used the kind of sit and wait approach and let's see what happens are starting to come back. And even in, as a seller, we've seen price appreciation growth for the first time in a while. And there's a lot more positivity. So it's a good sign on both ends right now. And I'm happy to be a part of it. And, my schedule, my calendar's packed from morning to night every day. And, I'm having a lot of good conversations with both buyers and sellers out there. And, it's a good sign, right? Because it was doom and gloom for a bit there. Our interest rates were rising rapidly, and they're just, we really didn't see light at the end of the tunnel where the prices were going to fall and land. And it looks like we found a soft landing. And the buyers are coming. The buyers are coming.
Because talking to Rob the last little while, a lot of the questions were in and around interest rates and in and around whether or not people were going to overbid on homes. What's the number one question that you're getting right now, Phil?
Yeah, I think the number one question right now is this a good time to buy, and is this a good time to sell? Those are the number, the top two questions that I always get. And that's what I'm seeing a lot lately. In speaking to sellers, my advice is this: if you look around your neighborhood right now, there might be one, maybe two listings that are available, right? That number, I can guarantee you, will climb in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So I often say, would you rather be up on the market with one other house or be up on the market and you're the only house for sale? Or would you rather be up on the market with 5, 6, 7, 8 other properties that are all similar to yours? And the answer every single time is, well, when can we get started? How fast can we get the house up on the market? I don't want to compete with other listings that are up on the market. So we're in this little, kind of hotbed, kind of low inventory, but that inventory is going to climb. And now for buyers, right, the prices have come down. And those approvals, especially for first home buyers, is work on getting the approval. Work with your mortgage agent, work with your mortgage broker, see how much you can get approved for. We're also still seeing a lot of people that are moving up from a condo to a townhouse, from a townhouse to a single detached. And then we still see the people that are downsizing from the big 2-story looking for that bungalow. So there's still a lot of movement. There's still a lot of action out there. And it's just a matter of time. If the buying demand will keep up with the inventory climbing, then we're still going to see our prices start to appreciate rather rapidly, in my opinion. So it's going to be interesting to follow this market through the summer. No one has a crystal ball. I'm not saying it's going to go through the moon, but from my experience right now, what I'm experiencing in the marketplace, we're seeing some properties go into multiple offers with multiple bids, and in some cases go over asking prices. That's something that we haven't seen in a while. If that carries through the summer and inventory remains low, we're going to see a strong price appreciation growth. However, if the inventory climbs rapidly and the buyer demand isn't there, then we're going to see things settle out a little bit more.
Are we at that point where mortgage brokers are telling you that the approvals are on the increase? Because I know about 6 months ago, we talked about the fact that it was a little tougher to get approved, particularly for the first home buyers. Is it easing up a little bit, Phil?
It's not. I would say it's so difficult for the first time home buyer to get approved. You're trying to get approved at a higher interest rate, and then you're combined with the stress test. A lot of the time the numbers just don't work for those first time home buyers, and that's why we see a lot of them in today's market. Go to the bank of mom and dad, or use a cosigner, or something along those lines. The mortgage regulations are so strong and so hard in Canada, but that's why we got the strong banks, and we've definitely learned to what happened in 2008 in the United States, and we see that, and we don't want that to happen here. So our mortgages are heavily regulated, which makes it very tough. I always say to the first time home buyers, work on getting the approval, get the approval, try, do whatever it takes to try and get that approval. And then from there, let's go house shopping. But this is something that's is going to become more heavily regulated. There's some news that's coming out down the pipeline right now that as we get into the later in the summer, we have this what's called an exception rule right now, where for instance, mortgage lenders and mortgage brokers can get creative and say, sometimes your credit might not be there, or your income might not be high enough, or maybe you changed your job in the last year and they require 2 years of employment, or something like that. That would be called an exception when you go apply for a mortgage loan. There's rumblings and rumors and things like that are coming out, and these banks and the mortgage regulators are going to come out and take away these exceptions. And I've been approved on an exception basis just because I'm self-employed. And there's things that it's a lot harder for someone who's self-employed to get a mortgage, and oftentimes you need to ask for an exception. So like I said, there's some rumors, there's some rumblings that these regulations will get stricter towards the end of this year. And that's some, if you do have, some people have really, a lot going on, right? Income properties, a job where they don't pay themselves that much because they're self-employed, or, multiple businesses. And for those people that are considering getting a mortgage, it will get harder for those people, and they might be pushed towards a B lender, which has a little bit more looser restrictions, but in return you're going to have to pay a higher interest rate. So we think that there's as much as we're already regulated as financial institutions and mortgage lenders, we do believe that there's more regulations coming towards the end of this year.
All right, I want to bring your guest into the conversation because I know they've been sitting there patiently listening to us. Spencer is from Travelux Property Management. Spencer, talk to me about what that is, because if somebody hears Travelux Property Management, right off the bat, somebody's going to think, okay, you're in charge of, condos and those kinds of things. What is Travelux Property Management?
Yeah, so we have a management company in the vacation rental space. So it's similar to your long-term property management company, but we do it for investors and clients that are looking to purchase a vacation home. Obviously, with that comes a lot more work than your regular long-term tenant. You have multiple guests checking in multiple times per week. We manage all the cleaning. We take care of everything to do with the listing, the pricing, the optimization, and then obviously make sure that the property's upkept to a 5-star standard. So we make that completely hands-off for all of our clients and investors.
When did this become a thing, Spencer? Because 10, 15 years ago, it really wasn't on people's radar. When did that become a thing for people?
Well, I mean, it really became a thing once Airbnb started really hitting the market. I would say like it really started taking off 6 or 7 years ago.
Right.
We started this just over 4 years ago, started as an investor and saw a huge demand shift, for multiple reasons, cash flow, the, being more friendly in terms of the Tenant Act in Ontario, and seeing a lot of people that didn't necessarily want to just stay in a hotel. They wanted a whole home where they could bring multiple families to enjoy.
You talk about investing in short term. What does it mean to invest in short term properties? Because I know what it means to manage them, and you just talked about how that's changed. But what does it mean to invest in short term properties right now, Spencer?
So yeah, I mean, the biggest driver to vacation rentals is obviously the flexibility and obviously the cash flow. You can bring in a lot more than your average market rent. So that's usually the number one appeal for investors, but also the flexibility of your calendar. If you have a bad guest, let's say, wait a few days, they're gone. You don't have to worry about getting a squatter, a tenant that's not paying on time. Everything is taken care of and paid for before they even show up. So you don't have to worry about necessarily those headaches. And the nice thing is your property is also professionally cleaned multiple times per week. So if you are using that as a secondary vacation home, it's kind of nice having that flexibility and knowing that your property is being upkept.
Yeah, Tim, I'm just going to hop in here really quickly. So I got into the Airbnb space specifically because, one of my best friends owned one in Vineland, and it was one of those things, we were talking about it, and he showed me the numbers that he was making on it, and I was like, holy smokes, this is unbelievable. This is incredible. And at the time I was working on a property, and I was renovating it, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it after. And this property is downtown Hamilton. And I was like, you know what? Like this might work, right? Like, let me try this Airbnb thing. And traditionally I've been a landlord of long-term tenants. I've had a few bad experiences. I think we've talked about them on the show. And one major draw to me was like, they're not regulated. You don't have to deal with the landlord tenant board. And, we've seen the multitude of articles that have come out about dealing with that and what have you. And I said, well, let's try this Airbnb thing. And, I furnished the property, put it up on Airbnb, and, instant response. And, I figured that my property downtown Hamilton would probably rent out between $2,600 to $2,800 per month. And I'm getting over $3,500 a month, close to $4,000 per month on Airbnb right now as we speak. And that's one of the major draws for me. Also, the upkeep of the property, like we mentioned, the property doesn't get run down. It's maintained in a pristine way, cleaned, 1 or 2 times a week, professionally cleaned. So, and in my opinion, it's fulfilling, right? There's that, it's like that side gig, but hobby, and, seeing people that are coming in and enjoying it and, leaving you feedback and, having all that, that full experience within the property is a really fulfilling thing, as a property owner.
And Phil, just before we get back to Spencer, and we're going to have to take a break here in a second, but as a real estate guy, do you get a lot of people coming to you and saying, I want to buy a place, but I want it just for income. I don't want to live in it. I just want income. How much of your business during the course of a month would that be?
Yeah, it's all the time. It's all the time. We'll have specific listings that are up on the market, and buyers will call us and be like, can you do Airbnb here? How much can you get for Airbnb? So those are the questions that we are fielding every single day. And that's the reason why I brought Spencer on the show. It's a great opportunity to talk about it and share, knowledge and information from the best people that are doing it right now. So we'll get into that more in the next segment.
Right. We'll come back and talk a lot about all of that sort of stuff with Spencer and with Phil Golfi on this week's Golfi Real Estate Show. We'll be back right after this. All right. You guys all set for number 2?
Yeah, good to go. Let's
do
rock.
it.
Okay. Golfi Real Estate Show, segment 2, coming down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Golfi Real Estate Show for this week. And in with me, I'm Tim Dennis. It's Phil Golfi this week with RE/MAX, the Golfi team. And I'll let you once again reintroduce your guest this week, Phil.
Yeah, it's Spencer from Travel Lux Property Management. They're a luxury short-term rental manager company.
Spencer, I have to ask you, does everybody just assume you're Airbnb?
Yes. Airbnb's definitely got the market share in the vacation rental space for sure.
All right, let's talk about what the short-term rental market is like right now. It's in the news all the time. What would you say the state of the market is right now?
Well, the state of the market's growing rapidly. We're up 40% in the Niagara region on overall listings, just over 3,000 now. And from a revenue perspective, we're up 8% on an average monthly revenue year over year. So it's definitely not, it's definitely very, very popular, but it hasn't been saturated yet. There's definitely a lot of people making the shift to that market for various reasons. Number one being cash flow, and number two being the high covering costs. So as an investor, it's definitely appealing.
What's the primary? Is it a home? Is it an apartment, condo, townhouse? What is there, or is there any consistent theme there?
Yeah, there's various. The ones that we manage are fully detached homes, more on the higher end side, luxury amenities. You know, our avatar is families, medium to higher net worth that are coming into the area that just want an entire space. There are other apartments, so on in like the Niagara Falls area, that are just smaller units that appeal to the longer term stay, someone staying in for a few weeks, but primarily full on detached vacation homes.
All right, let's talk about some of the challenges, because Phil kind of mentioned them and you alluded to them in our last break as well, but there are regulations. Yes. Different communities have different regulations. There are more apparently coming. As somebody in the business, are we, overdoing it with regulations? Are we going to do we risk killing the market with regulations? How do you feel about it, Spencer?
We're actually very positive in regards to these regulations. So you're going to see a lot of municipalities in the Niagara region that have put licensing programs in place. We're actually all for that. And the reason being is that not every listing is managed or run the same. It's not run properly. So it is creating a bad stigma out there in the market. You've probably seen some various articles on some horror stories that have happened at certain properties that are labeled Airbnbs. And that's what really gets out in the market. With these regulations, it'll just crack down on the type of host and ensuring that they're following a strict set of rules to, host to good people, but also respect the community. So I think it's a good thing on both sides.
All right, Phil, let me bring you back into it. I mean, you see it as an investor as well. What do the regulations mean to you?
Yeah, it's a catch-22. You just want to make sure that the regulations are coming in for the right causes and the proper causes, and not specifically to support a single stakeholder. If you've been following the trends in Niagara Falls, a lot of the regulations are being pushed by the hotel owners for, it makes sense where they're seeing that, these Airbnb properties and vacation rental properties are cutting into their profits. So, they want to protect their entity. But I'm on the same side as regulations are good, but let's make sure that there's not, a reverse ripple effect. Let's welcome the vacation rental space. Let's welcome visitors, because it supports the local economy in a huge way. I mean, from my own experiences, everyone's always like, oh, who's coming to Hamilton or who's coming to Niagara? What type of people are renting the Airbnbs? And it's everyone from professionals that are in the city for a week, from construction workers to wedding guests to just freelancers of people who just want a space. I mean, one of my first Airbnb guests were people that already lived in the city, but they just wanted to use it as a little getaway. Like it's amazing that when you're actually in the trenches and you're actually working on the property to see who's coming to visit and for what reasons. So, you know, and I strongly feel like sometimes the people ignore those factors, and they just look at the negatives, and they look at the parties, and they look at the disruption, which is not the case. It's such a rare case. I mean, that's what I was afraid of when I first started. I was like, oh no, like, you know, what if there's someone comes and hosts a party and destroys my house? And, you know, it's been the furthest thing from. It's, you know, more oftentimes people are coming in and enjoying the property and taking such good care of it and leaving it, you know, in the same, you know, position, in the same cleanliness as it was when they first arrived. So I have nothing but such a positive experience to say about this. But when you know, Tim, and I was one of those guys too, who got caught in that gutter, got caught in that, you know, the what if or all the negativity, but it's such a positive. You know, it's so positive for your local communities and your local neighborhoods. And guess what? There's going to be one-offs here and there. There's bad apples and everything, and no matter what you do. But it's so funny, like the one-offs are the ones that get the headlines and make the news. But the people that come in from, you know, overseas and have an amazing stay and have family dinners and it was the perfect vacation experience. It's like, you know, those don't grab headlines like the other ones do. So it's just been a positive experience for me all around.
Spencer, talk to me about the fact that in the news, there are a lot of stories. And I mean, let's be honest, the news will look for the negativity in things to try and put it forward. But you hear a lot of these stories about, you know, parties, endless parties, and leaving the place in a disaster. When people talk to you about that, how do you react?
That's a really good question. So yeah, there are some bad apples out there, but what a lot of people don't realize is that there are various ways to vet your guests and various things that you can have on a property to stop those parties, right? Exterior cameras being one, and you can buy noise sensors that will trigger an alert on your phone within 30 seconds of it going above a decibel rating. So when I hear that, the first thing I think of is, okay, this property was mismanaged, and whoever was hosting it likely didn't act quickly in time. They didn't have certain safeguards in place. They didn't vet. They just strictly opened up their calendar for anyone and everyone. And yeah, there are a few bad apples that can make it through. But, you know, when I hear that, it's so, you know, Phil mentioned it's so few and far in between that out of the 1,000 people that you might host, you might get one, you might get two if you're doing things properly. And even then you can get it shut down pretty quickly. So, you know, when I hear that, of course that's going to make the news because that's what, you know, the news likes to write about and people respond to it. But there's so many ways to safeguard that. And there's a lot of really great guests that come in and leave your place spotless and respect the community and so on and so forth.
There is, you know, it's a wide variety of things in Niagara. What is, you know, a short-term rental in Wainfleet will be different than a short-term rental in Niagara Falls, for instance. What's the hot spot right now, Spencer?
This is, before I hop in, this is the one question that everyone always asks. It's like, if I'm going to buy an Airbnb, where should I buy it? And Spencer and I were going back and forth just in private messaging, and I asked him this, so I'm excited for him to share his answer.
So yeah, there's multiple hot spots, but obviously Niagara Falls brings in a ton of people. That's extremely popular. Another one that's up and coming, and there's been rapid growth, is Niagara on the Lake with all the wineries and tourism in that area. That's an area that I myself personally is very bullish on from an investor standpoint, and we do manage a lot of properties for investors in that area as well. We seem to get a lot of great traffic, a lot of great guests, but those are probably your two biggest hot spots. But people will still book outside in the smaller cities like Welland, St. Catharines, even the Bench area now is starting to gain popularity, just to be in the Niagara region. Most people have vehicles, so it's, yeah, those areas are really good.
And I know this is necessarily on the list of things that I was going to ask, but I'm curious because I get questions like this all the time. What's the difference, in your view, between an Airbnb or a short-term rental or whatever you want to call it and a B&B? Because people confuse the two all the time. You know, I own a home and I want to own a bed and breakfast. What's the difference between that and a short-term rental?
That's a great question. So a bed and breakfast is where an owner-operator or someone lives on the property, usually rents out a room or a space, and there's breakfast provided. That can range from a full-on, gourmet meal to a few granola bars and some water and coffee in the morning, but someone's living on the property in the B&B. The Airbnb, or short-term / vacation rental, that is where they have ideally the entire home to themselves, unless specified otherwise, where the owner-operator is not living on site. Especially in the Niagara region, it's a lot of people's primary homes where they can rent it out while they're away, whether they're traveling, working, not at the home. So essentially, they have the entire space to themselves, full-on privacy. Everything else is the same. Whether they provide breakfast or not, that's up to each and every host, but that's the primary difference.
Phil, let me ask you. I mean, when people want to invest, when people want to buy, do people actually ask you about buying a place because they want to turn it into a B&B?
Yeah, B&Bs are often sold already operated. So some, people that are specifically looking for a B&B will, they're often advertised and sold, and they often come with a long, business profile and things like that. We see them pop up on the market. They're not as popular as they once used to be, just with the vacation rentals and the Airbnbs that have become so popular. People are more drawn to those just because there's less management. You can hire companies like Spencer's and hire them to manage it, and there's no one that needs to be in the house. But when it comes to Airbnb or short-term vacation rentals, people will call us specifically and say, the number one question is, can you do an Airbnb here? And what are the rules and regulations and stipulations in terms of turning this into an Airbnb? And we get that all the time, especially if it's waterfront properties right now are really popular, where people want to turn them into Airbnbs. Properties that are in and around wineries, specifically vineyards, things that with come with a view and come with an experience. And I think that's, as an Airbnb owner myself, and I know Spencer can allude to this, you're selling an experience within the home, or within the location. And that's why Airbnbs have become so popular in comparison to going to a hotel. It's just that you're getting a wider experience and a more enjoyable experience. If you're into cooking, you get a full kitchen. If you want to hang out in the backyard and have a fire at night, or do something like that, that's what the Airbnbs offer in comparison to a hotel, and that's why they've become so popular. And so we see a ton of investors and a ton of buyers that are coming in for it, and not just investors. And what I've seen too is people, like I said before, is there's a fulfillment in owning an Airbnb. It's people wanting to give that great experience and watching other people enjoy the product and service that they've put together. And so, I've often, I've explained it before, is it's turned into like a hobby a little bit, where people have these, properties, and it's like almost like their own little hobby farm, but it's a hobby Airbnb. So we've seen that a ton, and it's been amazing. And I know, people that have followed along, we've seen some pretty incredible Airbnbs start to pop up. And I know Spencer can attest to the experience part of the Airbnbs.
And I want to get to that in a sec, because I want to give a full segment to that coming up after the break. But real quickly, Spencer, before we go to the break, are people surprised to find that there is a company that will do what you do? Because a lot of people will think, oh, I'd like to invest in an Airbnb, but I haven't got the time. I don't want the hassle, that kind of stuff. Are they surprised when they find out there is a company like yours that can do that for them?
I would say yes. It's definitely becoming a lot more popular now, with all the real estate investing shows talking about using property management versus not using property management. A few years ago, it was very few and far in between, but there are starting to see a lot more companies hit the market in terms of offering that service, just because it is in such high demand, and it's a lot of work. Like, running a short-term rental yourself is not an easy business. You're in the hospitality business. You're dealing with people at all times of the day to ensure that their stay is comfortable and that they're having a good time. So, I would say, yeah, they're definitely surprised and happy to hear that there is a company or a service out there that can take that off their plate.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break and come back with our guests, and Spencer and Phil will be right back on this week's Golfi Real Estate Show. The Golfi Real Estate Show on the air for this week. I'm Tim Dennis. Phil Golfi is with us from RE/MAX, the Golfi Team. Spencer from Travelux Property Management is our special guest this week, and we've been kind of focusing on the whole idea of short-term rentals, if you will, Airbnbs. Spencer, talk to me about selling the experience of an Airbnb, you know, and Phil kind of alluded to, you know, the foodies, those kinds of things, but there are a lot of experiences as part of this whole thing, aren't there?
Definitely. Yeah. It goes so much further than a lot of the hotels in this industry can. It provides like a full-on kitchen, full-on living space. You can share an entire space with multiple groups, so you can have more than one family if it accommodates a larger group. What's really popular here is the outdoor amenities. Obviously in the Niagara region, it's beautiful here in the summer, and people love to spend time outdoors. So providing that, you know, luxury or that really nice outdoor setting, patios, fire tables, hot tubs. You know, what's really popular now is those outdoor wood-burning cedar saunas. Just having that experience where they can spend time with their families and friends, relax and enjoy not only like the wineries, the Niagara region itself, but coming back to really enjoying the space and creating that experience for them.
I want to hop in here and, you know, one thing that I noticed is, you know, we're so used to, you know, everybody in the Niagara, big yards, you know, beautiful scenery and, you know, lush garden, you know, everything. And we don't realize that people that are coming from the GTA are often in, you know, smaller apartments and, you know, high density, high traffic areas. So, you know, for us, we're so used to, you know, this sort of outdoor living lifestyle. And you know, when someone comes from the GTA and those higher density areas, they love it. It's such a, you know, just that experience alone of sitting in the backyard and listening to the birds chirp and hearing the leaves brush together and, you know, reading a book or something like that. It's just so peaceful for them that's what we can offer as Airbnb hosts. And that's what people are looking for, Tim.
Let's talk about when you're looking at investing, when you're looking at buying, is there something that you need when you're selling a place to become a short-term rental that maybe you wouldn't have to have? I guess I'm talking about ROIs, return on investment. What kinds of things do you have to have if you want the investor to look at your place as a short-term rental? Spencer?
Yeah, so definitely the number one ROI driver is a good outdoor space in this region. It obviously varies from different geography locations, but in the Niagara region, I would say definitely having a good outdoor space and a very comfortable indoor living entertainment space. A lot of the people that are renting Airbnbs or any vacation rentals, they're usually a medium to larger size group that wants to be able to spend time together in those areas. So I would say, like, definitely the most popular is the outdoor area. I would look at, you know, what is your vision with this property? What type of avatar, what type of person are you trying to attract? So for example, our company, our guest avatar that we're looking for is families. So we want to create a big open space where they can enjoy, spend time with the families, the kids can have a great experience, but also in the outdoor space, they can still enjoy, you know, relax by the fire, have the kids run around and have certain amenities there that you can add. So when you're looking at the vision, can that property bring that to life? If it can, then I would look even further into it. If it can't, then maybe move on to another property.
All right. The big question that I know a lot of people have, and they're thinking, why hasn't he asked this question yet? How much money can you make with an Airbnb or a short-term rental compared to, you know, renting monthly?
Getting to the good part. I love it. Okay. So
save the best for last.
That varies drastically, but on average, we're seeing 100 to 200% plus more than your average market rent. Yeah. So like on an average, or not an average, on a decent home in say like St. Catharines, Niagara Lake, Niagara Falls, if it's done properly and you're performing in the 90th percentile, even let's go 75th percentile or higher. So you're in the top 25% of listings. You're averaging anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 a month. The top performers do over 10. So there's definitely a very big driver from a cash flow perspective on, not only having the debt pay down and appreciation of that property. So say you buy a higher end home, you get a lot more income to do the debt pay down side, but also the potential to bring in quite a bit of cash flow as well.
Is that what you would think, Phil? I mean, does that dovetail with your thoughts too?
Yeah, 100%. It's and that's what got my interest is those numbers right there. And I found them astonishing. And I kept on saying, like, really? Like, there's no way. Like, that's unbelievable. And the main driver for me, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, Tim, is the main driver for me was, and I don't have to deal with the landlord-tenant board if a tenant doesn't pay me. Oh no, like, you're guaranteed your payments because it's submitted, through Airbnb before the guest even arrives. It's paid. And so, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to get stuck with a bad tenant, and, the property is going to be maintained beautifully, and it's going to turn into this like side hobby that I enjoy. And, I just, completely renovated this house, and, other people are going to enjoy it. So for me, that was like the main driver. Of course, the money is amazing, but, I went through such a negative experience in having a bad tenant and working with the landlord tenant board and going through that process. I was like, I never want to do this again. And Tim, you have no idea how many people I meet that are going through this right now, who have a bad tenant or a tenant that's not paying, and they're just so fed up with it. They're just like, I want to sell the house. I want to get rid of my house. It's causing stress in my life. I'm losing money because I'm paying a mortgage that my tenant, my tenant's living there for free. It's unbelievable. I've had people call me in tears, like on the phone, saying like, what do I do? And so that's what pushed me to this Airbnb space. Now I still have long-term rentals, but this specific property that I had purchased would kind of fit that Airbnb mold and checked a lot of those boxes. Some things that I wish I did, what I wish I knew is the cost to get the Airbnb up and running. This was me in the middle of COVID, okay? When you couldn't find anything. Right? Like, so I finished renovating this house and I go, holy smokes, like, I got to furnish this place. Like, I had 3 bedrooms. I hopped on Amazon right away. In my car, I must have ordered 100 different items from cutlery to paper towels to toilet paper. Like, you have to furnish the place fully and get it ready to go. It's like you're a first-time home buyer again and you're moving into a new house right away. You need everything and stuff that and when you think you ordered everything, you haven't, and you still need more stuff. So my advice, if I were to buy another Airbnb property again, I would try and negotiate the furniture into the deal. If the furniture is really nice on the property that you're buying, try and get your real estate agent to include it in the deal. That will help you so much when it comes to your startup costs. Number one, because it'd be in the mortgage and you don't have to pay anything out of pocket because you bought it with the house. And number two, you're not going to sit there and go insane trying to build furniture like I did. So don't do that when you're buying a property. Especially, specifically if you're doing Airbnb or short-term vacation, try and get it with the furniture. That's a little life hack. And then, my thing, one of the biggest time savers might have not been the biggest money saver, but by far the biggest time saver is I ordered everything on Amazon. So I ordered it directly to the house from Amazon. This was everything from bath towels to face cloths to dish soap and so whatever, you name it. And I had like a huge delivery from Amazon. The guy was looking at me. I'm like, yeah, man, it's, sorry. As he hauls.
So if I'm moving next week, I can count on you to give me boxes because it sounds like you have like a billion of them.
Yeah, it was in like that first startup, 2-3 weeks where you're just trying to get it ready and you're waiting for everything. It's a lot of work. It's you're going to spend a lot of time on it. But my number one thing is try and buy the house with furniture. Number two is instead of running around and trying to save a few bucks here, for me, the time saver part of it was huge. And I used Amazon for that. And I know these guys can speak toward, Spencer can speak towards that and, getting these Airbnbs up and running. But the first, as you get started are the most crucial factors.
Is that the biggest hurdle, Spencer? Getting it started, getting what you need ahead of time, so you've got it out of the way?
Yeah, no question. That is the most stressful and frustrating part of that whole process. We've got it down to, I like to say, a pretty good science. We have a very, very strict and extensive supply list that literally goes down to exactly how many towels you need per bed and so on and so forth. So we try to make that process as easy as possible, even when I'm buying a new property and going through all that, frustrating process again. Even though the supply list is there, it's still a lot of work. And to Phil's point, like, if you can negotiate the furniture and it looks great and it fits the property, definitely do that. Because like you said, you're getting a very good return. It's rolled into the mortgage. You don't have all that cash going out, which will then increase your ROI. But yeah, for every supply you think you need, pretty much double it, because it's always more than anticipated. And we try to soften that burden for all of our clients, but even still, it gets it surprises you almost every time.
Phil, I've got a real estate question for you.
Let's do it.
But because I don't want to run out of time before we're all done this week. And it's funny because this actually came up with a friend of mine not long ago who was in the midst of trying to sell a home and apparently got some interest, but contacted their real estate agent, and the real estate agent was in Cuba. And kind of texted them back and said, well, I'm kind of out of the country right now, might not be able to help you. My friend is taking all of my calls, etc. And they were a little ticked.
Yeah.
What do you suggest when your real estate agent is on vacay?
Yeah. So this is, real estate agents take vacations. It's going to happen, especially when we get into the summer months. Like, we're people too, right? So, everyone takes time off here and there. Now, when it comes to a real estate agent, I have people ask me this question all the time when they're considering hiring me or interviewing me to list their house for sale. And they'll come right on and said, hey, do you have any vacations planned in the next 2 months? And I'll be open and honest. Now, for me, I'm so lucky that I'm supported by an amazing team. We have over 70 agents on our team. I have a personal assistant, and we have an amazing leadership team that we have processes and programs in place to be able to support every single one of my agents in the event that they are on vacation. So we do not run into these issues. However, if there is a single agent or a solo agent, there's often a buddy system or something like that they are a part of, and somebody taking care of their business. But it is a topic of conversation when somebody is considering hiring me to sell their house.
There was a time when absolutely everything in the real estate business had to be signed with a wet signature, as they used to say, right, with a pen. Is that different now? Can you sell a home from Fort Lauderdale on the beach? Yeah,
we're 100% can buy or sell a home virtually, and that's what's when I go away, it's I'm dialed in and my phone's on as if I was living and working at
that must make you popular with the family.
Well, guess what? When you're in a real estate family, you can get away with it. When I'm on vacation with my dad, he's looking at me. He's like, "You better answer that call, or else you're he's like, I pay a lot of money. I pay a lot of money to make your phone ring. You better pick it up when it rings."
Was going on a vacation with your dad.
Yeah.
Now there's the first mistake.
But yeah, I'm tapped in and I'm dialed in, and it's something that I think as a real estate agent that you and you understand and you sign up for. It's a part of our industry. It's a part of our business, and I pride myself in providing the best customer experience to each and every single one of my clients. And so if that involves me picking up the phone while I'm walking on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, then so be it. I love my job. I love what I do. And I commit to each and every single one of my clients.
Spencer, before we roll, I should make sure that everybody knows where they can get in touch with you in case they have more questions or they want to hire you. Where can they get in touch?
Awesome. Yeah, our website's travelluxpropertymanagement.com, and you can reach us. Our email and contact information's on that website.
And, of course, if you want to call the Golfi team anytime, it's 905-641-8800. 0308 or online at robgolfi.com, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I just wanted to share. So, we're going to work with this company. We're going to have Airbnb workshops coming up. So stay tuned for those. We're going to host some, because we do understand that the Airbnb space, B&B space, there's a lot of people that are super interested in. So we're going to host a little workshop. So if you're interested in investing into Airbnbs, stay tuned and reach out.
Gentlemen, we're out of time this week. We'll get back at it next time on the Golfi Real Estate Show. Phil, Spencer, thanks a lot. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time.